This is your weekly episode of the Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is Podcasting Podcast, a world famous podcast about Star Wars and nerd slash sci-fi slash fantasy adjacent things that we enjoy.
We can say world famous because there are people in at least 2 countries who watch and
Well, yeah, there's my one friend who is in the UK, and there are some other people around the world too. Yeah, we've got a couple. We have tens of viewers.
Yes.
Most of them are in the United States. A couple of them are in other places. So,
ergo, world famous.
Yeah. But yeah, we do a lot of Star Wars here. Not much Star Wars probably for the foreseeable. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say foreseeable
Till
future.
April 22nd.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we will have. I don't know how we're gonna do Andor because, and I sent you that meme. Or that quote from Tony Gilroy, who is like...
It's a movie a week.
Yes. Well, we should talk about that for a second. Well, first of all, you should follow us on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube. We're on Kick now. It's a thing we do. We're on Blue Sky. If you want to come and say hi on Discord, the link to that's in the description if you want. Come and say hi, and we'll, chat about nerdy shit. And then after so today we're doing Severance, Season 2, Episode 9... the Invincible Season 3 finale, which was kind of a banger. Yeah. And then Daredevil Episode 3. And right after this at 7, we'll be doing some Battlefront with the boys from Gremlin Squad, so you should come and check that out as well. Okay, so this Andor release schedule, I thought wasn't real at first because it didn't make sense to me. So the way they appear to be doing it is that they are going to be releasing 3 episodes at a time.
3 episodes week 1, then 3 episodes week 2, then 3 episodes week 3, and 3 episodes week 4, and that's it. Which
means that there are 12 episodes. We have no reason to think that they're not full-length episodes, each one of them. And Tony Gilroy took to his either social media or
just a press interview and basically said, fuck the podcasters, I guess. Have an entire movie's worth of material every week.
He did also mention that it was a choice from Disney.
Which is very weird.
It is weird because look, you could do it one of two ways. You could do it like this, where it seems to serve the narrative, because I think they're doing like 3 episode arcs for different time periods. Or you can do what's corporately responsible and do a 1 episode per week, and you get 12 weeks of Disney Plus subscriptions out of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what data they're going off of. Or if they're sacrificing that 12-week run of a Disney Plus subscription for some other metric.
It's especially weird because like something like Andor, which is like near universally beloved, I would assume they'd want to milk as much money out of as possible.
Yeah.
Which I assume they have some business reason for doing this.
They would have to, because we know that corporations don't make decisions like that unless it in some way either immediately benefits their bottom line or will play out to do that. And the weird thing is that corporations generally are very much short term. Like we can get $5 now. Like we can get $10 if we do this like the long way, but we can get $5 now.
Yeah,
and that's what we're gonna do. So the fact that they're not doing that is very weird to me. Maybe they're like, guys, there are a lot of people pirating this show. Maybe we should stop thinking about subscriptions so much. I don't know. I know I'm excited about it. That's the only other Star Wars news we have today is that Star Wars Hunters, which was
the Overwatch like
mobile game, yes, is
shutting down.
Yeah, it's shutting down. They're stopping support for the game, and you will not only it's not like it's a game that you can just play like Battlefront, how we play without it being like supported. You can't play it after October.
Well, yeah. A multiplayer game like that, I would assume they would need to have servers somewhere, and presumably they just don't want to pay to keep those up.
Yeah.
So
the sad thing about this is that first of all, mobile games as a cultural thing that exists are inherently terrible and immoral, and they target children who they know will get mom and dad's credit card, and their sales practices are disgusting, and I'm really disappointed in Star Wars in Lucasfilm for allowing a game in this format because they're almost all universally terrible and
Well, they had
immoral.
another one before this, right? Wasn't it Galaxy of Heroes or something like that?
Yes. And so like your first lesson is don't buy into mobile games because they're all a scam, and that's
even if you do, it can all go away in like a year after release because not enough people bought in for the corporations running it to decide it's worth the effort and money to keep running it.
right. The thing that made me really sad is I saw a comment on one of our posts talking about it. It was like, man, why is it that whenever I get invested in a mobile game, like I end up paying money and then they still end up shutting it down? And it's like they extracted the wealth they expected to get out of you, and then they were finished. That's how it works. And it sucks on one hand that there are people that get fooled by this. And it's not your fault. I mean, it's these games are made to extract every cent they can from you, and afterwards it's just over. So don't get into mobile games is what I'm saying, and don't let your kids get into mobile games because they're all fucking terrible. Buy them an Xbox. Not that
they
my
can turn into the stereotypical 12-year-old screaming slurs on Xbox.
Yeah,
Live.
and that isn't to say that there aren't microtransactions in games on console or PC as well. But I feel like it's a little less like terrible and shitty. As we move along, by the way, this is a live show, and we'll be reading some chats in between segments.
But only if you chat like live while
Right.
we're doing this. If you're in the future watching the YouTube version, we can't do anything for you.
Right. Yeah. Which, by the way, the YouTube release of our podcast on YouTube, whatever redundant sentence, will be on Monday morning.
The YouTube release of our YouTube podcast, which is released on YouTube, will be on YouTube on Monday.
Featuring the Jedi Enclave Presents the Now This is Podcasting podcast.
On YouTube.
Yes. Wow. So you can go and check that out if you're into the YouTube thing. It'll the nice like clean version with the good audio and shit will be on YouTube. So go and do that. And
All right, is that everything?
I think we got to get through this because like there's a lot, and this is another thing where another week where I'm like I have no idea how long I'm going to talk about Severance. It might be forever.
Yeah, because everything might be important.
Yep. And I think everything is important at this point. Let's talk first about Invincible.
Okay.
Because the season finale happened this week.
So do you want to talk like broad strokes the season?
Let's just get into it. Let's get into it. I want to say spoiler warnings if you've not seen the show or read the comic, which by the way, I've not read the comic at all. And I'm kind of glad that I haven't because I believe that it is an amazing comic. But I'm also really enjoying experiencing this as it happens, like as the show comes out. And I'm glad that I went into this not knowing beforehand what was going to happen because of the comic and everything.
Yeah.
So I know literally every person I've ever heard talk about Invincible, the comic, has only said really good things about it. So it's clearly a good thing. And I'm not reading it because I'm like, oh, it's probably sucks or whatever.
Yeah.
I just like, this is how I'm experiencing it right now. And then when I'm done with it, then I'll probably do the other thing. So this is the big finale of season 3.
So previously, Invincible fought off all the alternate dimension Invincibles and was in the process of trying to rebuild the world when this Viltrumite named...
Well, not the process. Literally just started.
Yeah. When this Viltrumite showed up and said, hey, why is the planet not under control? And Invincible's like, you know what? I'm going to punch you now. And fucking Conqueror said, I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah. And which, by the way, I mentioned last week that Conquest gave me some like Thanos vibes. It turns out I was not the only person that thought that because it was all over social media. And like on one hand, I get that like the robotic hand is I guess a little similar to the Infinity Gauntlet.
Also very big.
Yeah.
He's a very wide boy.
Yeah, he's huge and he's I bet he would really like that nickname because as we found out in this episode, there's a part of him he doesn't talk about to other people that we'll get to when we get there.
He's a sensitive soul.
Yeah, he just kind of packs it down deep, I think, and only confesses things to people he's about to kill.
Also voiced by the guy from Walking Dead,
the guy that played
Negan.
Negan, yeah. I can't remember his name.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I think.
Yeah, right. Jeffrey. Yes, that's correct.
Who does a fantastic job voicing this character.
Yeah. It also, I should make sure to mention that Walton Goggins, I think that's his name, the guy that plays Cecil. is the guy that played the zombie guy in Fallout, the new Fallout show.
Yeah.
And is in right now the current running season of The White Lotus, which is another one of those shows. I told you a couple weeks ago, like by the time the third season of Silo comes out, we will have watched seasons 1 and 2, so we can talk about it. I think that if they do a 4th season of White Lotus, which I believe they will, that's going to be another one too, that like when it comes back around, we will have watched it and we're going to talk about it because it is a fantastic show. Like better than average. And he's in it, and he's one of the reasons it's so good. But
we've gotten sidetracked here.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that not a ton happens in this episode.
Yeah, it's mostly Conquest beating the shit out of Invincible,
just beating
and Invincible punching back.
Ever-loving shit out of him.
Like, I do have to say, the animation in this episode was fantastic. Like, I don't know what they did. I'm not an animator. I don't know anything about this. I just know it looks really fucking good. I've
seen the opposite sentiment.
Really?
Yes. And okay, I have not examined the difference between this season and the other seasons. But I guess it's been like a running joke for this season that the animation seems to be way more sparse, and maybe that's what you're picking up. Maybe you're the kind of guy that's like, hey, less is more, you know?
I don't know. I just know that I really liked the way the fights were animated in this episode.
I liked it too. I like how Mark is immediately out of his depth.
Yes.
And
so like he punches the shit out of Conquest, makes him bleed a little bit. After a while, Conquest is like, all right, I'm done warming up now. I'm going to beat the shit out of you, and just starts wailing on him.
All that for a little bit of blood. Yeah.
The sequence where he knocks him up into space, spits out this little orb of blood, shapes it into a heart.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Conquest is a little bit of a...
He's a battle sexual.
Yeah, he's a weird guy.
His sexuality is combat.
Yes, and I feel like if Viltrumites had therapists, he would need one more than all the other Viltrumites.
Yeah?
We do find out that he... so he makes a stunning confession to Mark when he... And we'll probably jump around a little bit. When he believes he's about to kill him. When he says, like, look, I don't have a lot of people to talk to you about this, and since you're about to die. Every Viltrumite is terrified of me, and it's made me a very lonely man. And
they tell me to go somewhere and beat the shit out of people, but they never really talk to me. They don't really like me. They're all afraid of me.
Yes, I am alone, and there are days...
I am a walking, flying weapon to them. I don't even get a name. That they call me Conquest.
Conquest, right? Just a word, right? And there are days when it just makes me fucking cry. And then Mark's like, why are you telling me this?
And Jeffrey Dean Morgan's delivery of this
it's
is
good.
Fantastic.
It's so good. And he's like, well, anyway, now I'm going to kill you.
Well, now you know my backstory. I'm going to kill you now. And then who should show up but fucking Eve?
Yeah. So the first introduction to this battle is Oliver, who sees Mark getting his shit rocked on TV. And it looks like there for a second his mom's going to stop him, or his adopted mom is going to stop him. Mark's mom.
And then she's like, no, actually, you should go beat the shit out of him. Just like keep moving. Don't let him grab you, because that would be really bad. Yeah. Especially do not let him grab you by your head and your ankles simultaneously.
And then stretch you. Yeah.
That would be very, very bad. But anyway, go have fun.
I also like how she's like, by the way, if it starts to get a little too hard, run your ass away. And I wonder maybe if Mark's mom saw what was happening on the TV and is like, he needs literally every bit of help he can get.
Yeah.
So Oliver shows up and is immediately outclassed, just like Mark.
Even more so than Mark.
Yeah, he's got him. He grabs onto his head.
He gives us a monologue about how your spine is starting to pull apart, and then goes your muscles, and then your skin will start ripping, and he's just about to literally tear him in two when Mark shows up and saves Oliver.
And this is one of the benefits I feel of not knowing what was going to happen, because there for a second I was like, oh shit, is he going to kill Oliver right in front of Mark? Like, damn.
On live TV? Yeah. Like that'd be really fucked up.
Now, while all this is happening, Adam Eve wakes up and she looks on the TV and is like, what?
Hey, fuck, that's my boyfriend getting his shit kicked.
What? I like the revelation from her dad, who's like, is that who Mark's Invincible?
That's your boyfriend?
Yeah, and
she just
Eve's
floats
dad
her ass out of bed, like makes a new cast for herself, and is like
a new leg, like a
robot leg. Yeah. And she's like, I'm gonna go fuck him up.
Yeah, I like how the doctor guy is like, you can't walk, and she's like, fuck you, I don't need to walk.
I can fly, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Cecil's like, please don't do this.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm gonna fucking do it, and Cecil's like, all right, fine.
So Eve shows up and like makes herself like a little Iron Man suit, right, out of the pink whatever the fuck that is.
For a little while, she's doing okay.
Yeah, but it like I guess maintaining that amount of matter and energy manipulation
is exhausting.
Yeah, it like tires her out a whole bunch.
And Conquest is like, you're getting tired, and I'm not.
Yeah.
So like, you're gonna hit me a few more times, but then I'm gonna break every bone in your body.
And he fucks her up and kills her. Right. And this is that moment I was talking about before, where it's like I kind of wish they had just stuck to this because I feel like Mark comes to this big realization at the end of the episode about how he needs to approach people who threaten his family.
Some people just need killing.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lesson that would have been harder earned if he had to watch Eve die and she stayed dead. And that way, every combat experience he has after that, that's his first thought is, what if this person does to Oliver or my mother what they did to Eve? I have to kill them, you know?
Yeah.
But it ended up being kind of a bait and switch, which I was a little disappointed in.
Yeah.
And but on the other hand, though, you do get to see.
I do appreciate like the way this scene is structured. Like Conquest is beating the shit out of Mark, and like almost behind him you can see all the pink shit where Eve is like reconstructing her body. Yeah. And Conquest is like, I'm gonna kill you now, and Eve is like, hey, fuckhead. Yeah. And just shoots a fucking Kamehameha laser beam at him.
She does she goes like Super Saiyan. Yeah. Yeah, and she's got like the atomic things around her and shit. That was pretty cool. Yeah. I enjoyed that. Took off a majority of Conquest's skin, I think. Someone pointed out that she burnt his dick off.
Yep. Ain't no baby Viltrumites coming from him.
Which I have a feeling that Conquest gets hard only one way and otherwise can't. So that might have been a blessing for him. I don't know.
But anyway, Mark, who by this point like has broken both of his hands, just headbutts Conquest until he stops moving.
Yeah, which is like, it's a way to use your head.
All right, yeah. I mean, by this point, he has like one functioning limb because like he also broke one of his thighs.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, he like one of his femurs, right? Yeah, he just like breaks one of his femurs.
One of his femurs broke both his hands. He crawls over to Eve and they like pass out next to him. He's like, wait a minute, why am I naked? Yeah. Never mind.
Mark's like, I don't mind. Anyway, time to die now, I think.
So there's a big long recovery sequence and some intriguing reveals, such as all the corpses of the Invincibles were recovered and are being turned into zombies by Cecil and the Pentagon.
I love that, by the way. I love that part in the middle of the episode where like Cecil is just
Cecil goes down there. He's like, dude, are they ready or not?
He like grabs onto the ring. He's like,
I need them right the fuck now.
We need them. They're like 2 weeks at least. He's like, fuck. Why does this always happen to me?
But yeah, he's making the Invincibles into his super zombie puppets.
Which, very Cecil thing to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also a very Cecil thing to do is take Conquest and lock him in this like
his head
in his 400-ton block of titanium or whatever way under
with explosives
and just wait for him to wake up so he can tell you everything he knows about the Viltrum Empire.
Yeah, I wonder how that's going to go.
I'm sure that's not going to come back.
That's going to go great.
Ass.
And then there's a post-credit scene. So the lion guy is alive from that one episode.
Battle Beast. Yeah. He which is probably a good thing because he's one of the very few beings that can fight a Viltrumite and win.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And then
Engstrom Levy finished getting put together.
Right, he's got a new arm.
The guys are like, all right, now you're gonna give us some really big shit, but we're gonna be all mysterious about it.
Yeah,
because we don't want to spoil anything for the next season.
Which, by the way, these are like the bad guys from Hellraiser, right?
Probably.
They're giving me the Hellraiser vibes.
Yeah.
And then demon guy.
Yeah.
He conjures other demon guy. And
he's like, all right, so there's someone up there. We're not going to tell you who would be a really, really good host body for you.
Yeah.
So we're just going to, jam you into that host body and it's going to be great. You're going to have a good old time.
He probably means Oliver, right? So I feel like it's a very demon thing to do is be like, oh, we're going to take over the child, or maybe Adam and Eve, because I think maybe, and I'm not an expert on, the power scales of Invincible, but I think maybe Adam and Eve might be stronger than Mark at this point.
Certainly she has more versatility. Like, as she tells Cecil, she can manipulate matter on the atomic level.
Yeah, that's pretty...
That's incredibly fucking powerful.
God level,
like,
yeah.
She could set off nuclear explosions everywhere.
With a thought.
Yes.
Yeah. And I guess that, like, they talked about how they put, like, little blocks in her psyche to keep her from doing it.
To prevent her from manipulating organic matter specifically.
Right. And she's like, but when I get real pissed off...
or, almost dead.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess they're gonna try. They
have the funeral for Rex.
Right. So Rex,
very emotional.
Yeah, Rex. I laughed a little bit when Robot Guy was like, "I'm changing my name to Rex." It's like, oh man. And then we find out that the little starfish dudes who are controlling people's minds
Martian things. Yeah,
they're like slinking around underground. Yeah.
Yep.
So lots of places to go in this show. And
season 4 is already in production.
Yeah.
So
I think the showrunner teased one season per year.
Okay. So it shouldn't be too long till the next one.
Right. So yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was pretty great.
Yeah. Very good times.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments what you thought of Invincible.
Okay. Now is it Severance time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Boo-doo-doo, boo-doo-doo. God,
how did this one even start? I forget.
Well, Helena swimming eating eggs. So first of all, I noticed that they do the spoilers for Severance season 2, episode 9. I can't remember what the
After Hours.
Yeah, After Hours. Yeah, because it's a reference to it's a reference to a Twilight Zone episode. I noticed that we only get an opening credit, like that opening theme thing. Yeah, and like the weird creepy animations. We only get that on certain episodes, and I think it's when an innie is involved.
There's a lot of innies in this episode.
Yeah. So we're spoiling it. I'm so sorry. Go and watch it. But if you don't care about any of that shit, then stay here. I don't give a fuck. I'm not your mom. I'm not the cops. So we open on Helena, as like not Helena. She's swimming laps in the fucking family pool, and then she goes to breakfast.
Yes,
and has a creepy fucking breakfast with her dad. Which, by the way,
is one hard-boiled egg
cut into the smallest pieces.
Yep, into sixths. Which she then proceeds to eat tiny little nibbles with her knife and fork.
I have never seen a human being eat pieces of food that small. Like, that is insane. Yeah. And with the precision that she like cuts it, because she doesn't eat any of the yolks. She only eats the whites, which is either really racist or really health conscious. Maybe both. Yeah. Lumen's weird. But her dad's like, hey, what a momentous fucking day. And
also, I'm not going to eat anything. I'm just going to watch.
Yeah, I'm not going to eat, but I'll watch.
Which is a really weird thing to say and to do.
Yeah. So she has a weird little plate that she has, which is this boy being restrained by two girls.
I assume it's something relating to Kier, because everything is.
I think it's Mark and then Helly and Gemma.
Oh.
Yeah. That's kind of my working theory. And then she's eating her fucking eggs, and what does her dad say? Well, the weirdest fucking thing he can think of, which is, I wish you'd take them raw. And it's like, what the fuck did you just say to your daughter?
Huh?
Because in the real world, that means something.
That has a very different meaning.
And it's not something generally guys tell their daughters, unless you're looking at a very particular part of Pornhub.
Yeah.
But anyway, she gives him this look like, I'll eat my eggs the way I want to, you stupid fuck.
Dad.
Yeah. And so she tells him, hey, we're seeing to Mr. Bailiff, which is Irving. And he's like, great. Oh, he also does this weird thing when she's eating the egg. He does this weird little moan. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
He's like, It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Coffee or his tea out of his weird
Tea
like,
or
square
something?
pot.
Yeah.
The Egans are so fucking weird.
I swear to God, if they don't explain every single weird thing we've seen in this show. So Milchick has graduated Miss Swan.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, congratulations, you finished your Wintertide Fellowship, and we're sending you to Norway. And you're going today
to Svalbard, specifically.
Which, by the way, is this tiny...
Yeah, it's this little itty-bitty island above the Arctic Circle.
Yes, it's like between Norway and the North Pole.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the last stop on the way to the North Pole. So he says, your bed will be moved from your parents' house to Norway.
Which is extremely fucking weird again. Like, it is part of the Lumen cult that, like, you get one bed.
You sleep in one bed, motherfucker.
And whenever you move, you have to take that bed with you, like, to anywhere?
Right.
Are they not allowed to stay at hotels?
I don't know, man. I'm pretty sure it has something to do with goats, though.
Probably.
So he's like, you're going to an empathy center. We're going to work on global reforms. And she's like, this really sucks because I thought this was going to happen at the end of the quarter. And he's like, well, you shouldn't have given me that bad fucking review about my long words and my paper clips. So enjoy Norway, you fucking loser.
Also, before you go, put your weird fucking ring game.
As a parting gift?
Yeah.
I'm going to break your favorite fucking toy.
No, even better. I'm going to make you break your favorite fucking toy with this giant fucking bust of Kier.
Yeah, she gets it. Just like, by the way, so Cobell was a Wintertide fellow as well, and has her own bust of Jaime, but it's like young Jaime.
Yeah.
And I guess
and
Huang
she hid the notebook up inside it.
Right. Which I guess Miss Huang's first name is Eustace.
Okay.
And she gets a current bust. Her fellowship happened in the year of Vision.
Okay.
Which, because they have those weird like Chinese New Year kind of things. Because I think Cobell did hers in the year of the Wiles. But anyway, she has to smash her fucking like Lumen approved, prehistoric Game Boy.
She has to make a sacrifice. Right. It's all very symbolic.
Milchick seems to enjoy this quite a bit. I think just because he's like, this bitch would not shut up about how I use paper clips.
Holy shit, her fucking theremin. Like, what the fuck?
Right. He should have had her break the theremin. Because you know how like that one episode where she's like, "Oh, I prepared a piece on theremin." He's like, "Fuck you, Miss Wong. We don't have time for theremin." And that look, it was just like, "Oh."
I worked really hard on that.
So Dylan and his wife talk. Dylan and his wife talk, and she admits cucking him with himself.
I mean, to be fair, she only kissed the innie.
Yeah.
Dylan's like, all right, I'm going to go to work and probably quit just so that you can't cheat on me.
Can't do that anymore.
With the other person who lives in my body. So, see ya.
Dylan's not so crazy about getting cucked by himself.
No.
And I think that their relationship just got worse.
Yeah.
Like, because I get the sense that maybe they're having some marital problems, and I think they still do, probably.
Yeah. She was like, well, he just reminded me of how you used to be before
you turned into a fucking loser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, thanks. That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah. That definitely doesn't make me feel like a loser anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
Gretchen.
Going to quit my job. Gretchen.
Yeah. So Irving gets home.
Mm-hmm.
His dog Radar, who, by the way, is this gorgeous elderly dog who I swear to God, if anything happens to him, I will rampage. His dog Radar is sitting at attention when he gets home, signaling that he has a visitor.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you know? It's fucking Bert.
It's Bert just flipping through his notes on Lumen.
Yeah. And it's funny how, like, Irving has this look on his face like, we literally just said goodbye to each other like 5 minutes ago. What the fuck are you doing here? So, yeah, he's found his chest, which Droman found in the previous episode with all of his secret documents, and a pretty big reveal happens that I think a lot of people didn't realize was a reveal, which is that not only did Irving know who Bert was, he was investigating Bert. Because in his notes, he has a little dossier on Bert about how he was like Lumen's goons or whatever. And so he knew the whole time who he was.
Bird is like, by the way, Lumen would never use the word goon.
Yeah.
That they're always way more specific.
Yeah, they've got a weird thing with language. And it probably sounds way weirder than you can think of.
Yeah.
So he's like, you know what? Let's go on a drive. And Irving's like,
are you gonna kill me?
Yeah.
Bert's like, just come on. It'll be great.
Can I bring my dog?
You
know what? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? Yeah, bring your fucking dog. Yeah. We get a shot of Dr. Maurer watching Gemma because he's a weird fucking stalker. The Cold Harbor file is stalled at 96%.
So he fucking calls Drummond and says, hey, the numbers aren't moving.
Which by the another weird thing, it's like you could just say, hey, like they're not making progress on the file. He's like, the numbers aren't moving.
And then Drummond fucking calls Milchick and says, hey, the numbers
are moving. Yeah. And Milchick's like, oh, God.
Oh, my God, dude.
So
I'm beginning to get the impression Milchick is having second thoughts about getting this promotion.
Yeah. It makes me wonder by the end of this if he isn't on the side of.
I don't think he's gone that far. I just think he's extremely
he's over.
I think he's still drinking the Kool-Aid. Yeah. He just doesn't like the people he works for.
Yeah. So Hallie gets to work. Hallie are the innie. She charges into Milchick's office and she's like, where the fuck's Mark? And he's like, he's not here. And she's like, well, that fucking sucks. And he's like, well, what do you care? And she's like, he's our department head. And he's like, well, actually,
Dylan's your department head.
Yeah, Dylan's your department chief in Mark's absence. And she's like, so kind of like you and Cobell. And he's like, listen here, bitch. And she's like, that's enough, Hallie R. And she's like, don't you mean Hallie E? And he's like, get the fuck out of my office, please.
You're being extremely insubordinate right now. She's like, yeah, glad you noticed.
Yeah. I like this moment, though, where Hallie's like, I know who the fuck I am on the outside, and I know what you can and can't do to me. So I'm going to be a huge problem for you.
Yeah.
And sure enough, on the way out, he's like, leave it open. And she just fucking slams the door. Hallie, dude, that woman's got some attitude. Mm-hmm. So Dylan and his wife hang out, and she tries to break up with him, and he's like, well, no, I made you this ring. We can be together, and I can give you a good life. And she's like, how?
Actually, no, you can't.
Yeah, you're trapped down here. You only exist on this one floor.
I'm gonna go now.
Backs away slowly. It's not you, it's me.
Dylan's like, fuck.
Yeah. It's actually really kind of pathetic and sad because Dylan is heartbroken. Who would have thought that the guy in the first Tom Holland Spider-Man, the comedian they hired to say the line, "Hey, Spider-Man, do a flip," had this much fucking range?
Yeah.
Like the actor that plays Dylan is really great, and this is one of those scenes that he really kind of like excels in. But yeah, she fucking leaves, and she's like, "Well, you're gonna divorce me, I think," or I don't even know how this works anymore. My entire view of consciousness, I just don't know. Bye. And she leaves. So a dejected Dylan goes back to work, and Hallie tries to console Dylan. She's like, look, actually, I don't know what to say. She's your wife, I guess, but like their shit isn't our shit.
Yeah, his position is that she's my wife. Hallie's position is she's your Audi's wife.
Right, and as we know, as we all found out, Audis suck.
Yeah.
So we have our own shit in here, and remember, there's that whole thing. Irving wanted you to solve the fucking mystery, and he's like, you know what?
I think I would prefer to not exist.
Yeah, I think I would just like
deal with all this shit. So he goes down to Milchick's office to fill out a.
Well, hold on. Well, we're gonna get there. So Devin is driving Mark somewhere, and he looks like he's had a rough fucking last couple of days. Yeah. And so they're going to a meeting with Cobell out in the middle of nowhere, because you might remember that she called Cobell at the end of the last episode.
Mark's like, this is a really bad idea. Like, we told her everything. She told us nothing.
Right, yeah.
Like, why are we doing this?
So they get there. Cobell asks Mark, hey, how you doing? And he's like, oh my God, I'm so great. My wife is being held prisoner in Lumen, and I had brain surgery in my basement. And I fucking... You never watched Parks and Rec, but the actor that plays Mark Scout is in a lot of Parks and Rec, which is where I heard of him first. And he is hilarious in that show. And the character he plays in that show is called Ben Wyatt. And this was a Ben Wyatt delivery. It was so good. I laughed out loud. So Cobell mentions, she's like, look, speaking of your wife, if you've completed Cold Harbor, she's probably already dead. And he's like, what the fuck's Cold Harbor? And she's like, oh, that's not something I can talk to you about. Ooh. So Helly goes into the break room and finds the note that Irving left for Dylan. Because you might remember that Dylan said that he left it there so that they wouldn't catch him with it. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, this is mine now. Which, by the way, I noticed, like toward the end of this episode, you notice there's no MDR anymore, functionally. It's just Helly down there. Because Dylan has left. Irving was fired. And Mark's out in the middle of the fucking woods with Cobell. Yeah. And so it's just Helly down there like, you know what? I'll figure it out my fucking self. I need to know who these goats are. Oh, which, by the way, they mention in her conversation with Dylan where he's like, all
it's just O&D and the goat.
Yeah. And she's like, well, that we know of. He's like, should there be more than goats in O&D or ONR or whatever? Yeah. So Bert and Irving are driving somewhere. Yep. And Bert says that he's like, hey, I've never hurt anyone. I've just drove them to their destinations. And I never know what happens to them after. And it's like, bullshit. You know what happened to them. And Irving puts together on the way that maybe he's about to get whacked, Soprano style. Go look at the trees, Irving. Just walk away and look at the trees. Mm-hmm. And he seems a little sad about it, but at the same time, he's like, at least I got my dog with me. It's fine. So Dylan fills out his resignation request.
I love this form. Like, it has a bunch of boxes. Please tell us why you're quitting.
All the emotions that you feel.
Yeah, and there's like shame and anger and annoyance and grief, I think, is on there.
Yeah.
And Dylan just checks every single box. All of them.
Yeah. He's like, you know what? Too many emotions. That's my problem with his job right now. I feel too many of these. Miltrick tries to guilt him into not doing it. And he's like, this reeks of ingratitude. You fucking suck. And Dylan just ignores him. Mm-hmm. He finishes the form. He's like, is that fucking it?
He's like, no, give me your key card back. And like, holds out his hand. Dylan just fucking slaps it down on the desk.
This points out an inconsistency with the policy about any resignations. Mm-hmm. Because Helly did this in season 1, you might remember. Yeah. And they're like, okay, well, we'll process your request, and you go wait in MDR, and then they bring back a video from Helena that's like, you're not a real person, you're down here, you do what I say. Mm. They don't do that for Dylan. He immediately is like, give me your key card, go away by the elevator, and we'll be done with you.
I wonder if the procedure is different.
Because it was Helly?
Yes, because Dylan, either, one, because Dylan's not an Egan, or 2, because Milchick is running things differently in the department.
Oh, and he just auto approves it.
Like I could see Cobell and Milchick being different on numerous different things.
I thought maybe also another possibility is that Dylan has already resigned. Like, he got to work and was like, hey, this is my last day.
Could be.
Yeah. Or it could be nothing. The most probable explanation is that he's not an Egan, so they're like, we don't give a fuck. So on his way out, Miss Wong apologizes, and she's like, hey, I should have been a better facilitator. Milchick
is like, no, you don't speak right now.
You shut the fuck up. And Dylan's like, 12-year-old girl, don't even worry about it.
You're fine.
Yeah, and then walks off. By the way, Milchick is getting a lot of disrespect today. Yeah. With Helly slamming the door closed and Dylan his badge, and shit. And he they're shitting all over Mr. Milchick.
And it's about to come to a head.
Right, because Drummond finds him in the hallways and scolds him.
Well, fucking calls him upstairs and says, hey, where the fuck is Mark? We really need to get Cold Harbor done today.
Yeah. And he gets on to Milchick's case about using big words again. Yeah. And Milchick is just like, I apologize. And he's like, use shorter words.
Shorter.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm sorry, I guess.
He's like, okay, no, do it again.
Yeah. And he's like, you know what? Devour feculence. It means eat shit. And you're like, you know what, Milchick, I don't like you as a character. You're the person at the end of the hallway when Gemma was trying to escape. You're responsible for that.
He's a bad person.
Yes.
But in this one moment, I get it.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Fuck corporate America, man. You tell him the fucking business. And he tells you, he's like, you know what? Look, it's not my fault what Mark does outside of work. That's yours. Yep. And Drummond's like, oh, yeah, fair.
This doesn't quite square because there was like all those parts where Milchick was like
on his bike,
motorcycle at night, checking up on everybody and being a creeper.
I just like that there's a moment where like his eye twitches and he's like, listen to me, you giant Viking motherfucker.
Listen here, you little shit.
Eat shit. So Mark calls in.
Yes.
Right? Because Cobell's like, look,
you need to fucking call and tell them you're sick and that you'll be in tomorrow. Because if they haven't heard from you, they're going to assume something's up and they're going to put everything on lockdown.
Yeah, they're going to lock you out of the building. And so he gets on the phone. He's like, Milchick, look, I had these nosebleeds and like it's not feeling good.
I drove 2 towns over to this hospital. They're taking care of me. Milchick's like, oh, well, tell us where you are. We'll send a car. We'll give you the very best Lumen healthcare.
And he starts to like layer on the excuses. And then he's like,
finally, it's just like, you know what? I just didn't want to come to work today.
Milchick, I got to level with you, man. I'm just playing hooky. Can you just leave me the fuck alone?
I really needed a mental health day here. Like, if you can just bear with me, I'll be in tomorrow.
Milchick is like, okay, this happens, I guess.
I get it.
And then he makes Mark promise that he'll be into work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And the way Milchick says it, he sounds desperate and really worried. And it sounds like he's on the edge of tears. And he's like,
he's had a busy day.
Right, yeah. And he's like, you promise you'll be in here fucking tomorrow. And he's like, I promise. And he's like, thank God. Thank Kier. Kier, chosen one, Kier. So Bert takes Irving to the train station and buys him a one-way ticket. Mm-hmm. And he's like, okay, this goes way far away.
All the way down.
Yeah.
I cannot know which station you're getting off at, so just pick one.
And you can never come back to Kier.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there's this heart-wrenching scene between the two of them. And Bert confesses he severed because he wanted a version of himself that was innocent of all the terrible things that Audi Bert did. Mm-hmm. And that was the version that fell in love with Irving. And Irving's like, I'll tell you a secret here, kid. I've never been loved before, and it's kind of great. So why don't we push our foreheads together like in season 1?
Yeah.
And he tries to convince Bert. He's like,
just get another ticket and let's go.
Drop the drawers, man. I'll blow you right here, please. And Bert's like, we can't, man. And he's like, okay, we'll go into the bathroom then. And he's like, no, man, we can't. He's like, okay, let's go back to your house. He kick Fields out and we'll do it there. And he's like, no, man, you got to go. And he's like, all right, well, I tried. Yeah. And he takes Radar and he gets on the fucking train and they leave.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to wonder, because surely we've not seen the end of either Irving or Bert, right?
Yeah.
They're both big name actors. They're both huge like poles for the show. And I'm wondering maybe if Bert knows what's waiting for him on that train. Like maybe he gets on the train and there's someone that walks up behind him, in the middle of the journey and slips something into his drink or tries to do something to him.
It's possible.
You know what I would love to see? I would love to see Irving just go full of John Wick on the train with his geriatric dog and like have a whole because he was in the Navy and shit and he's he could probably take care of himself.
Honestly, I don't think the vibe I got from this is that Bert was kind of going rogue with this and just getting Irving out of town and Lumen doesn't know anything about it.
Which he could argue, hey, I took care of it. He's not coming back. Yeah. Like, dude, don't worry about it.
He's out of your hair.
So Dylan waits by the elevator and then he gets on the elevator and fucking leaves. And that's the end of Dylan.
Ding.
It's like, oh,
all right.
Bye, Dylan.
Well, go apply the door factory again, I guess.
Right. What was the thing that got it ruined the job interview?
I think
for
he's
him?
made a door prize joke or something.
Right. And he's like, no, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll be a little bit more respectful to doors.
Yeah, maybe.
So Miss Wong gets on a little shuttle bus to fucking Norway.
Her giant fucking earmuffs.
Yeah.
I love that.
So Devin and Mark, this is the plan with Devin and Mark and Cobell. They're going to go to the birthing retreat. And I understand this plan better now. When Devin first was like, hey, let's go to the birthing retreat, like a couple episodes ago. And I remember thinking, why? Why would you want to go there? But it makes sense to me now that like they just need to walk past a piece of machinery that kicks them into the other, right? And they have one of those there that she knows about. So it actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So they're going to go to the birthing retreat. And they're going to switch Mark to any Mark. so they can talk to him.
This part doesn't make sense to me because I thought the point of integrating was that there isn't an innie and an outie anymore. It's just one complete person.
I think it's happening much slower than they thought because he's not fully integrated yet.
Okay.
So I think that either that or because like PD died during reintegration, like it's really dangerous. So I have a feeling it's not going as fast as they want it to. So he climbs in the back of fucking what's his name's truck, which Cobell still has, Hampton. And she's like, we got to go under the cover of night. You know,
it'll be extremely perilous.
Yes, yeah. The night is dark and full of terrors and shit. So after hours, Helly is sitting in a very empty MDR because
trying to memorize all these directions.
Yeah. And a figure appears behind her, and at first you think it's Milchick.
Yep.
Because he's got
the same outline, the same hair.
He's got like the turtleneck with the suit jacket. Yeah. And it comes into focus, and it was legitimately kind of a jump scare moment for me, even though it was not filmed as such, because it's Jaime Egan.
Yeah.
On the severed floor. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing down here? Yeah. And he says, you tricked me, my Helly. And Helly's got this look on her face like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Which is funny because she had a conversation with him, right? Like right before she gave that big speech. He came in and was like, oh, you. And she's like, yeah.
You.
Dad, I presume.
Yeah.
And then she goes and gives a speech about how they're all like prisoners and shit.
Yeah.
And so he's like, you tricked me, fuck you. And she's like, I barely remember who you are. So they get to the birthing retreat. Cobell tells the guard that Devin is one of James. No one is to know. And immediately was like, ew. Because apparently this happens often.
Yeah.
Where apparently James...
To the point where they just have a protocol for it.
Right. And the guard says, Miss Marcia White... Or, Cobell says, Miss Marcia White, 9th floor. And then the guard says, Specialties Department. To which Cobell answers, I am looking for a gold thimble. This has to be code.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure this might be proof that Cobell is still... I think maybe through and through Lumen, and I think this might be this is a I have Mark, you know, raise the alarm or whatever the fuck.
Possibly.
This is also a reference to a Twilight Zone episode that involves a woman buying a gold thimble. It's all very strange, and it's Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
And so if you want to look into it, do that on your own time. It's a lot to explain. So the guard waves him through. Mark Innie wakes up in the birthing retreat. Devin calms him down. He's like, hey, calm the fuck down. Remember, I'm your sister.
Mark's about to leave, and Devin's like, I wouldn't do that because he'll just walk right back in here.
She's like, you haven't seen the first episode of Severance, have you? With Helly walking through the door and shit. So they take him upstairs, and there's this great fucking shot of Cobell standing in front of a fireplace. She's lit from behind. She's looking epic as fuck.
Looking incredibly omonous.
Yes.
Patricia Arquette is just acting the fuck out of this
woman,
with just her posture and her face.
Just her like essence. Yeah. They ask him, what was the last thing you said to me when you saw me? And he says, she's alive, I think. And that's where the episode ends. And so the next episode is the season finale.
Yep.
I think
titled Cold Harbor.
Yes, I think I remember reading that it's the longest episode in the season.
Okay.
I also read the showrunners and Ben Stiller said that there is not a mystery in the show that they haven't written the end of.
Okay, that's good.
So they're not making shit up as they go along. Like everything will be explained. Probably not next week because I imagine they'll get at least 2 more seasons out of this show.
Yeah. I remember reading somewhere that like they had announced at some time this year that they were starting on season 3, but then immediately like deleted that announcement. So,
so they probably are. Yeah,
I would assume so.
Yeah. We'll be back next week to talk about that season finale because that's gonna be fucking momentous and a momentous occasion. In fact,
let's see. Do we have 2 minutes for Daredevil?
We do have 2 minutes for Daredevil.
Okay. It's a huge change of pace for a Marvel show that is relatively action light and is basically just a courtroom drama.
Yeah, we went full like Law and Order.
Yeah,
kind of there for a little bit.
Like every episode of this show so far has had a knockdown, drag out fight scene, but it's very much been this political legal drama for most of it. Like 90% of the show.
There's a lot of She-Hulk in the show. I'm just now realizing, and then I remember Matt Murdock fucked She-Hulk.
Yep.
They got down and fucking dirty, which good for them.
And then he did the fucking walk of shame in his Daredevil outfit.
You think he was like in the bedroom, he's like, can you do the green thing? Can you turn into the green thing, please? So this was more or less the trial of White Tiger.
Yes.
And they go through the different, like,
and like the witness clams up and doesn't say what Matt wants him to say. Finally, he's like, fuck it, I'm just gonna tell him you're White Tiger, and that gets the district attorney and the judge mad, because previously he was like, no, you can't bring up that he's White Tiger, it'll prejudice the jury.
Yeah, he's like, well, now it's okay because I said.
Yeah. The judge is like, well, fuck, I guess. And the DA is like, dude, everyone in my office is going to be
coming after you
for you.
Yeah.
So good fucking luck.
I like how the judge is like, I hate the legal system. Oh my fucking God. Why am I in this job?
There's
the big tragedy at the end of this one, I think, is
so he gets acquitted on all the charges, goes home, is about to go out and do his White Tiger thing.
The reason, I mean, like Matt told him, he's like, you need to fucking quit doing this. And he's like, I can't quit, won't quit.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, well, like if you get shot in the head by some mad Punisher guy, I told you so.
I think at one point he says something like, it's not a choice, it's my calling.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
which I get it. Like,
I wonder if it's something in the amulet that is just like a compulsion,
or it could just be that general sense of, I have these powers.
The right thing to do.
Yeah, right. And he gets jumped doing his patrol and gets shot in the head, and it's
one of those Punisher cops.
Yeah, which is really ironic, by the way, because let me tell you, if you don't know much about the Punisher fucking hates cops. The Punisher hates the police a lot. So the fact that there are policemen running around with Punisher tattoos, I bet he's somewhere like, what?
It's also a very sad reflection of reality, because there's a lot of real life cops who for some reason think the Punisher would be on their side.
Yeah, which you're the ones that he likes to, you know what, never mind. You go read the comics.
The ones that he likes to punish, perhaps.
Yeah, you go read the comics to find out what Punisher likes to do to the cops.
There's a little side plot with Fisk where he's trying to keep the criminals from killing everybody. And finally he's like watching the trial results and like, hey, get that internet journalist.
Get the Breitbart girl in here.
Yeah. By the way, we're not tolerating vigilantes anymore. White Tiger is a fucking criminal and a murderer, and we will have law and order here.
And it'd be really bad if someone walked up to him on Fifth Avenue with a gun and shot him in the head.
Yes.
It's like, okay, Fisk, Trump, the parallels are very clear. Yeah. I also like how much a big portion of the show is just Fisk and his wife's therapy sessions.
Which is fair, because like their relationship is a little bit strained.
I imagine it is, yeah.
Also, Fisk is very big, but like he eats very little. Like,
yeah. Well, his actor,
look at his breakfast. It's like
egg whites and asparagus. Yeah,
an egg white and some asparagus.
I think his actor lost a lot of weight. I think they're lampshading it a little bit.
Be.
Yeah. And then what was I gonna say? Something about this. I can't remember what now. His aide Daniel is James Gandolfini's son, the guy who plays Tony Soprano that died a few years ago. Yeah. He was in. They made a movie that was like a sequel to The Sopranos, or a prequel to The Sopranos, and he played the younger version of that character that James Gandolfini played.
Okay.
And because James Gandolfini was this like really great actor, like really great, like mafia New Jersey fucking, and his it's insane to me, because I was looking at him and I was like, God damn, that boy looks like James Gandolfini. What the fuck? And then
and he is.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my God. Yeah. So anyway,
it's hard for me to say where the show's going to go from here, because like they kind of wrapped up that plot thread, and like clearly something is going to drive Matt Murdock into going back to Daredevil at least part-time.
Oh yeah, well that's kind of the theme that they're playing at. They have both of these guys on both sides of the spectrum who are trying really hard to deny who they are, like to their core, and I think they're both gonna end up breaking it at the same time. I think that like probably within the same episode, Fisk is gonna go back to punching people and slamming people's heads in car doors, and Matt's gonna go full Daredevil. So yeah, that's the end of our show. We are gonna go play some Battlefront after this. We would love it if you would join us, come and say hi and talk some more about some of this nerdy shit. If not, we will see you next week with the season finale of Severance. It'll be a blast. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Have a good night.